heard of the United Nations plan for 2030? A lot of people have concerns about American sovereignty being stripped away in a new globalist society. World Health Organization has its World Health Assembly once again this year. You may have heard of the uproar last year in regards to the United States creating amendments to the World Health Assembly that would give away our nation's sovereignty. A lot of Americans got up in arms about this last year, which appears to have been effective in that our sovereignty was not given away last year during the World Health Assembly. Ron Armstrong is joining me to catch us up because we're looking at World Health Assembly 2023. And so far, there's less uproar now. Will these amendments be sneaked in now? Is this really happening? What are these amendments? I'm going to show you guys what the amendments were last year because I covered it last year. We looked at the fine print. I'm just going to play this clip real quick from James Roguski, who was looking into it with me. Here's what we talked about.
There's Tedros, the Director General of WHO, on the screen, and it says right there, they're planning on strengthening WHO as the directing authority on global health. I want to read the line that you said is the most concerning line out of the many amendments the U.S. is proposing to have the nations vote on next week. Again, you said that was Article 12, Section 2, Line 6. It says here, if the Director General determines and the state party are in agreement regarding the determination that...
Stop right there, okay? It says, if the Director General determines and the nation agrees, okay?
State party, I guess, means
nation, right? And so, and the state party agrees, okay? If you take out and the state party agrees, what you're left with is the Director General decides.
Is they've struck through the state party part,
right?
Leaving the Director General as the primary determiner.
But it's just absolutely insanity, in my opinion, to take the control from 194 nations and not give them to an independent body, right? But to give them to one person.
This is the White House, actually, which added this amendment to the World Health Assembly last year, which would give away our decision on whether to agree this is a health emergency. And going forward, it would be up to one man, Tedros of WHO. Ron Armstrong of Stand Up Michigan, now working with the American Sovereignty Coalition, raising awareness about the World Health Assembly plan for 2023. Thanks for joining me. Why would the White House want to give away its power? That makes no sense.
Well, it doesn't, but a lot of the decisions by this White House, and more importantly, whoever's pulling the strings, it certainly isn't Biden, is indeed playing along. I think it goes back to Obama, goes back to the One World Order, the Great Reset, all the 2030 issues you talk about. I think that what you had mentioned in your clip last year and playing that part of what was planned, it's much worse now, but we know more than we knew then. The difference in what has happened since then is in December of 2023, the president basically...
Of 2022, right?
2020, so yes, he signed a Global Health Security and International Pandemic Prevention, Preparedness, and Response Act of 2022, which basically hands over all of those authorities to the governing body of the World Health Organization. They also removed, it used to be called non-binding agreements. The non-binding is being removed. Therefore, the agreements will be binding if agreed upon by the nations, or again, if, as we said, a person who is a communist. Tedros is not anything. He has no background in health or medical at all. And yet it is going to be turned over to them. And I can give you a few of the other things that have been added to these amendments, if indeed they are passed at this particular meeting. They will be approving the language that I'm going to share with you.
Shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. The 2023 economic crisis has started. According to the Wall Street Journal, the banking failures signal an alarming trend of economic challenges to come for Americans. Morgan Stanley warns commercial real estate is headed for a crisis worse than 2008. Wells Fargo recently said commodities are in a super cycle and we have at least 6 years to go with gold surpassing $3,000 an ounce in potential outcomes. The economic hurricane Jamie Dimon warned of is here. Meanwhile, Biden and the Federal Reserve have little to no levers they can use to stop the current course of events. Will the Fed raise rates at the cost of banking calamity? Will the US dollar lose massive value as Brazil, India, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the growing number of countries seek to quickly abandon using the US dollar as their reserve currency? The time for gold is here and demand is soaring. Let National Gold Group show you options for investing in precious metals like gold and silver in your retirement accounts and for direct delivery. Mention my channel and you'll always get best-in-class service for real American service provider. The National Gold Group IRA fee waiver program allows you to invest your IRA or 401k physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for a lifetime fee waiver on qualifying rollovers. Call 888-617-5927 today. That's 888-617-5927. Get a free investor guide today at the link in my description. National Gold Group is a Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer. Call 888-617-5927 and add the power of gold to your portfolio.
They will be approving the language that I'm going to share with you. Establish a global surveillance arrangement. This means that passports, smart health cards, or a Chinese-style social credit system is going to be put into place in regards to, of course, One World Health. It's going to commit governments to censor dissenting views. They have actually already built buildings that are going to begin surveilling people based upon not only their health, but on how you interact with people and whether you are, again, participating in what they say is tackling false, misleading information and disinformation, wherever you heard that before, and that each of the countries involved are to counteract this misinformation, thereby strengthening public trust. Finally, they're going to have a One Health approach. Let me read you Article 18, number 3, page 24 of this says, One Health includes not only human health, but also the health of animals, agricultural plants, and the environment. If indeed these amendments are passed, it is going to become climate change and many other things that have nothing to do with pandemics that will begin to change the course of our sovereignty and our individual rights and liberties here in America.
Wow, that's scary stuff. Now, last year, there was a push to write to your members of Congress about this. My viewers did. One of my viewers sent to me the response he got from Senator Pat Toomey. And Senator Pat Toomey last year said, as you may know, if the President of the United States decides to sign an international treaty, 2/3 of the United States Senate must ratify the treaty before it takes effect. I take this constitutionally mandated responsibility very seriously and am strongly opposed to any attempt to ignore the constitutional authority of the Senate. That said, the president has the ability to enter into executive agreements and political commitments between heads of government without the consent of the Senate. However, neither executive agreements nor political commitments are binding under domestic U.S. law, and both can be revoked or reversed unilaterally by subsequent administrations. So the Senate has a lot of say in what Joe Biden decides to do.
Unfortunately, let's just stop there. What happened only 2 weeks ago, a Republican senator actually took a vote and forced a vote on this very issue, saying whatever the World Health Organization was to decide, this needs to be treated as a treaty, and he wanted to get the Senate on record that it would be treated as such. It was voted down 49-47, with all 49 Democratic senators voting against treating this as a treaty. It will not be picked up as a treaty. It was voted on only 2 weeks ago in the United States Senate that they will not treat this as a treaty. So we're not going to get help there. Number two, we've already seen the dry run of this in 2020 and 2021. The courts are not going to save us. the lockdowns and all the decisions that were made against our unilateral constitutional rights were never protected. When people were told to stay at home and when you were told not to have your kids play, and I'm in the state of Michigan, I can tell you our people understood this in a very big way, as many of your listeners have. We were not able to open our businesses. We were told how far we could be apart. We were told all of these things, even though they're proven now to all basically, most of them not be true in regards to vaccination, same story. But this is going to give the authority. By the way, this World Health Organization praised China for their transparency in regards to COVID. The CCP is now running the World Health Organization along with global elitists from the World Economic Forum, Gates Foundation, and others. This has been hijacked. They used to be an organization that did important work. They are now a political organization that are being used to basically change and transform the sovereignty of America because they can't tear down our Constitution. The workaround is going to be what happens in this World Health Organization, and we can't allow this to take place, which is why we now have created the American Sovereignty Coalition to make it easier. Now, one other thing you mentioned was talking to our representatives. The great news was we took back control of the House. We now control the purse strings. We now have the ability to defund the World Health Organization, and that means we have to encourage our representatives now, not only in this debt limit fight, but especially in early 24, when they are controlling the budget as a whole, not to include any funding for the World Health Organization and put them on record, because according to the agreement that the president has signed, we have to give a 12-month notice before we remove funding or before we are removed from the organization. And in addition to that, he has given them the authority that says, even though we pass these amendments, there is an opt-out clause, but they will be in effect immediately until the opt-out clause is exercised. We know that's not happening with this president. So we need to take action, and that's why we're trying to get us to contact our representatives to inform and educate them now.
Wow. Okay, so let's just reference real quick back to what Senator Pat Toomey said last year. If it is not decided to be a treaty and it's instead an executive agreement or a political commitment directly from the president to the WHO, he said, even if it's that, executive agreements and political commitments are, neither of them are binding under domestic US law, and both can be revoked or reversed unilaterally by subsequent administrations. So they would be mandates under Biden, and we would have to wait until a new president came, it sounds like.
It would be too late by then. Look, the issue we already know is they've already stepped on our under any sort of an emergency. And understand one other thing that they mentioned in here, which I should say, is Article 9 of this amendment is going to allow the WHO to rely on undisclosed sources for information declaring a public health emergency, which need not to be shared with the affected nations. This means that they can declare an emergency, not tell us where the emergency is, who is at risk, and they never have to disclose their sources, but can still implement them. We also are removing the word non-binding. What I'm saying is a court is going to uphold the executive agreements that the country enters into, because the Senate won't treat it as a treaty, and we are participating voluntarily. We are supporting the organization, and we are giving it over. And the perfect example of this, again, is we and all of our state health departments, all of the county health departments throughout America who participated in the lockdowns and shut down our schools and continued the masking of people for the last however many years. This emergency now is just ending. All of this was done under what they said. We're following the guidelines of the World Health Organization and the CDC. It didn't matter that it was law. It didn't matter that it was a rule, and not a single court in this country stopped those things from taking place. Business owners were arrested for cutting hair, for opening their pizza shop, for bowling alleys, for bars. If indeed these are done, especially under the guise of climate change, what's our argument then? We enter into it as an agreement. We're going to follow it. It's like the Paris Accord. It's other things. If we don't treat this as a treaty, we're not going to depend on the courts to save us. The Senate, of course, isn't going to change until at least 24, which means they would take effect in 2025. Same with the presidency. If this happens in 23 or even in 24, I can promise you there will be emergency orders that will be put into place that may even affect the 24 election. That's what happened in 2020. So we need to take action now. There isn't time for us to wait and depend on the courts or certainly the Senate to save us.
Scary stuff. Well, I hear that you've made it very easy for the American people to do something about this as far as writing to their senators and spreading the word.
We have. It's our House of Representatives we're after because they control the budgets.
Mm.
And we have a website that is called the sovereigntycoalition.org. Sovereigntycoalition.org. Probably will put that in the comments here.
There it is.
Okay, fantastic. And if you go there, you will see immediately a link that says sign the declaration. It is already a pre-printed letter. It'll let you sign the declaration and add your name. That is for us to have larger numbers. When you click the Align Act campaign, which is to take action, if you want to scroll down there, you will see there's been over 286,000 actions that have been taken already. You simply drop in your information, your email, and yes, it's your zip code. The reason is we then have already prepared a document or a letter. You don't have to write or copy and paste. You put in your information, it will populate your representatives and the people that you should contact, and a personal email will go directly to them, encouraging them to defund the WHO. And then we ask you, in addition to that, to go to the social media toolkit at the top. There's lots of great memes that are available, and we encourage you to post on your Twitter or your own social media account information to get other people involved. It's really an education and information process. We don't want to be on the defensive side once something's happened the next time. We want to be on the offensive side and let the WHO know that they are not going to tread on our sovereignty or our individual rights and liberties as Americans.
Wow, important stuff. Definitely, guys, check out that website, sovereigntycoalition.org. Ron Armstrong, is there anything else you want to add?
I guess I would just ask all of you. I know there's so many things we used to call we're kind of in a 30 front war, and now it seems like a 300 front war. We know that we're in, I think, a spiritual battle and a war. The evil isn't even hiding itself anymore. What the World Economic Forum isn't hiding what their intentions are for America. Neither are the Chinese. The dollar is under attack. The great news is our Constitution hasn't changed. Our God hasn't changed. And our freedoms and liberties that lie within that, the foundational principles, which are those natural rights, those unalienable rights, are not and have not changed. They can try and tear down the men and the messages that they have, but it doesn't change that. But we need to uphold those. As our founding fathers said, and Lincoln said what? Our country isn't going to be destroyed from the outside, but from the inside. It is actors within the inside that are seeking to bring down the greatness of America and the freedom that exists here. They have to also tear down, I believe, our faith and our God and our faith and belief, because if they can't tear that down, they cannot be successful. And when you start putting plants and animals on the same level as humans, when you start treating the planet on the same level as you do humans, then we are in deep trouble. And many of the positions that the World Health Organization and obviously the World Economic Forum are taking are completely contrary to our founding fathers. They're contrary to our faith and our beliefs as a nation. And we need each of you to take action and join together, because together we can continue to keep America free. We are the last beacon of hope in this world. And it is really up to us to preserve it for your children and for mine moving forward.
Right, and it's not like this hasn't happened before in history. Back in Germany in the 1930s, they had the Weimar Republic. People had a lot of freedoms. And Hitler was able to finagle an amendment to add emergency powers, similar to this. He got people in the government leadership to sign off on it, and then he never got rid of those emergency powers. He was successfully able to turn a republic into a dictatorship virtually overnight. So this has happened before with devastating results, and we really hope this never happens again. So thank you, Ron, for shedding light on this. Everyone, probably a good idea to write to your representative. So go to sovereigntycoalition.org and get that letter sent. Thank you so much, Ron, for what you're doing. Keep me updated on any updates in this case.
I will. And everybody remember again, I still believe that America's best is yet to come. We just have to be aware and we have to take action. Thank you.